Should you sell or rent your home? Now, this is an extraordinarily nuanced question that almost solely depends on your particular situation. But if we're speaking in broad strokes, I would say if you have any interest in continuing to benefit from the appreciation, from the principal paydown, from the tax benefits that come along with that property, if you have the ability to cover the mortgage payment, if you have some reserves where you can address any unexpected expenses and you can rent it out for more than your existing expenses and a couple $100 for the capital expenditures, the unexpected expenses that might pop up, and if you want to have the potential headaches of being a landlord, renting a property out, dealing with the problems of another person, if you have the bandwidth to do that, then it's generally going to be in your best interest in the long term, over the 10 to 30 year window, to rent that property out and not sell it. Especially with as high as inflation is, I think asset prices are going to continue to go up. So I would say if you have the ability to rent out your property without bleeding money on a monthly basis or inviting some unsustainable stress into your life, if you've got the mental bandwidth to handle any of the associated issues that you could speculate come from renting out a property that you own, you should. Now, if you have a low payment, if you have a relationship with a property management company and you really trust them, then you could utilize them to rent out the property. Now, they're going to take a cut and they are sometimes not going to pay you any money. So I would only go that option if you have a long runway of reserves and a high trust with that individual property management company. I have heard that in some markets, you can find very reliable, very trustworthy property management companies. That's not true for all markets. That is not true for my local market. So just know what you're getting into and definitely do your research. However, if you haven't owned the home for that long, if you don't have equity, if you can't rent the property out for more than your mortgage payment, if it's going to leave you losing money, or if you're not going to have the appropriate funds to move to a new spot, to pay for all of the expenses associated with whatever the reason is that you need to move, then you should probably sell the home. Do not hold on to anything that has a negative cash flow impact on your balance sheet, profit and loss, bank account, whatever it is. However you keep track of your money, I would advise against losing money on a monthly basis. I would also be moderately apprehensive of holding on to a property and renting it out if it is not in your long-term goal to have multiple properties for rent. If you are following the strategy of you're going to buy a house, live in it for a little bit, rent it out, buy another house, and continue doing that and accumulating 5-6 properties over the next decade, I think that's a great idea. But if you do the math, if you calculate all of the expenses associated with a home and what it would cost to fix those, and then take the life expectancy of everything from the roof to the driveway to the plumbing, and figure out how much you would need to set aside on a monthly basis to appropriately pay for those whenever they might falter, then what you're going to realize is you cannot possibly collect enough rent on a monthly basis to pay for all of the expenses that property is essentially inevitably going to produce. So single family homes is most certainly a quantity business. You're going to want multiple. You're not going to want just one, because when you have multiple, you're starting to play off the same kind of business model of insurance companies. It'll be impossible to write the insurance for just one vehicle. You couldn't possibly collect enough premiums from that one person to pay for all of the things that could go wrong and all the damages that one vehicle could cause. However, when you're collecting premiums on hundreds and thousands of vehicles, then all of a sudden it's statistically unlikely that all of those cars will cause damage or have issues at the same time, making the insurance model sustainable. Single family homes shares in that same principle, in that you're not going to be able to collect enough money to pay for all the things that could go wrong for one property. But if you have 10 properties, well, now all of a sudden, statistically, it's very unlikely that all 10 of those properties, when reasonably cared for, not neglected, have caring residents living in them. It is not likely that all 10 of those will have issues on the same month. And in the event that they do, you are statistically unlucky, and it likely would not happen again. So when you're collecting money from 10 properties, if one of them has an issue, generally the net cash flow from all 10 will be able to come together and pay for that one that has an issue. And then you have reached a level of scale that is extraordinarily sustainable, will leave you with extra cash flow. It will leave you with a ton of appreciation. So appreciation times 10, tax benefits times 10, principal pay down by 10, and you're going to have a pretty solid portfolio to hand down and leave that like generational wealth, if that's of any interest or appeal to you. So that's my 2 cents. Very long-winded way of saying maybe.
Thanks for watching that clip. I thought that was a good question. And I think you can ask good questions too. Join us every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a live stream Q&A where we answer plenty of questions just like this one. In the meantime, consider subscribing to the channel if you want more of this content. And if you want to increase your deal flow, analyze properties better, and help me feed my family, click the link below for a free 7-day trial of PropStream.